Hello, pup parents, and welcome to today's episode of the Perfect Pup Podcast. I am very excited for two reasons. Number one, we've got an awesome topic. And number two, we have Erika Gonzalez back with us. Thank you so much, Erika, for joining us again on the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I am excited to have you, and I'm excited for this topic. Last time we had you on, we talked about kind of the holy grail of behavior. We talked about puppy biting and nipping. We had a lot of people love that episode. And so we're going to give you another topic that's just going to be amazing. A lot of people are going to love it. We're going to cover kind of what to expect when you bring home a new dog, like how to help them acclimate, how to set ground rules, all that good stuff to help you start your dog's life on the right paw. I was going to say foot, but I have to say paw.
Yeah, you got to say paw. It's a necessity there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just part of the sphere that we're in. But a lot of people are going to be getting puppies. As you're listening to this, you maybe just got a new puppy for Christmas, or you rescued a dog, or whatever it might be. And even if that's not the case for you, this topic is going to be relevant because there's a lot of things that'll just, I'm sure, give you some new ideas and fresh ideas for how to help your dog be successful. But before that, we want to give an introduction of Erika. We've had her on here before, but we'll give a quick intro. So she is a CCDT, I always mix those letters up, but a CCDT with 9 years of experience. She specializes in coaching pet parents to train their dogs for basic life skills and behavior modification. She's the founder of From Dusk Till Dog LLC and is a mentor trainer for Catch Canine Trainers Academy. In her spare time, Erika and her husband, John, enjoy decompression walks with their two dogs, which if you follow her on Instagram, you know exactly what those are. And they have two dogs, Jade, an American Staffordshire Terrier, and Freddie, a Chihuahua mix. She enjoys watching good movies, spending time with family, and her mission is to not only bring you value through her content, but to enhance the relationship with your dog along the way. We love working with Erika. We love all the content she puts out. It's not only highly informative, but typically highly entertaining, which we all want
Thank
that.
you.
So yeah,
Thank you so much.
did I miss anything on the intro? Anything else you want to add to it?
No, I've been really enjoying these movies, especially this year. I've been catching up on all the movies I haven't gotten to watch all the years prior, as I'm sure many of us feel like that right now. So I've been definitely indulging in my movie-loving hobbies right now.
Now is a better time than ever to do it. So I'm glad,
Yes,
glad that
perfect.
we're all getting time to catch up on things. I love it.
Right.
So today's topic, we're going to talk about kind of what to expect when you bring home a dog, how to just start things off correctly and kind of, have structure for your dog's life to help them be successful, because that is our kind of obligation as pet parents in a sense, is to set our dogs up for success. So let's
Right.
go right to it. I think, one of the most important questions, we talk about this a lot, we talked about it with puppy biting, is what should our expectations be like, and how, when you're bringing home a new dog, what should our expectations be, and how those expectations that we have affect our dogs?
I feel like expectations are so important, and we all have varying levels of expectations when it comes to our dogs. And I actually thought of a really good, I guess, kind of quote for this. And I feel like we should keep our expectations on the puppy low in the nicest way, and our expectations of ourselves very high. And so I think kind of putting it on ourselves, right, is our responsibility. We're deciding to bring this puppy into our life, into our home, into our human world, which can be weird for dogs, right? And, if you've thought it through properly and have decided to take the time and the effort and the energy it takes to training a puppy and raising a puppy, having proper expectations when bringing them home is going to be very important. So I would basically say to focus on making them feel safe and getting them used to you. So what I mean by getting used to you is just getting them used to hearing your voice, talking to them a lot, and having conversations with them a little bit. And it might be nice to have a conversation with someone right now. And so, talking to them, touching them gently, all, in different areas of their body, rewarding them for anything good. There's going to be traveling involved, whether you're picking your puppy up from the rescue or shelter or foster home, or you're driving to the breeders to go pick them up and bring them back. There's going to be some traveling. They might need to be in a crate or confined in the car in some way. So you want to have prep stuff for that as well. And just, again, keeping our expectations rather low. Puppy might cry. The puppy might get nippy. The puppy might seem like they don't know what to do with themselves because they're a puppy and they don't know what's going on quite yet. But basically keeping things simple, easy, low key, and low stress. That's very, very important. Low stress. So I think if we put too much expectations on the puppy, so to your point about how will those expectations affect them, I think sometimes as humans, and I'm guilty of this, right? We have high expectations for our family and a puppy coming in the family. We want everything to go awesome. And of course, that's what we're going to be striving for. But I think especially right in the beginning, we want to keep those expectations rather low. And sometimes if we put too much on the puppy or expect too much from them, it could lead to some negative associations to things that you don't want negative associations to with your puppy: stress, fear. So we want to avoid all of that. So low expectations on the puppy, high expectations on us humans.
I love it. I think that's really, really sound advice. Every time we do these episodes, I'm like, man, I wish I would have heard these things when I brought home a puppy. But I'm glad that people are getting the information now because it is important. And it can be, I think as pup parents, like you said, we have this expectation in our mind, especially with the new dog.
Right.
Like there's a lot of stress that can go along with it. So I think that's awesome advice, just to do your best to make your dog comfortable and not stress them out and keep our expectations low. And one thing I want to add is just like expecting that things that probably could go wrong will likely go wrong, right? Like,
Hmm.
if you think your dog's never going to have an accident, you're probably going to be in for a rude surprise. Or if you think your dog
Right.
is never going to whine in the crate, like just knowing that like there will be challenges that come up. I think it's so important to just keep
Hmm.
that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to expect all of that. It's all normal stuff. Just expect them to happen.
100%. So on that note, okay, so we're bringing our dog home. Even before that, I guess, like how should we prepare our homes? Because, we've heard
Mm,
phrases like puppy proofing, and I think people sometimes don't think about that enough. They think about it for babies, right? It's like, okay, we got to,
yes.
have stoppers on the cabinets, all those different things. Like in your mind, what are some important things to do to kind of puppy proof slash prepare your home for that new dog?
I think that's a really good point because I think sometimes people do underestimate the importance of puppy proofing and prepping the space appropriately. And I think most people think of the more so obvious ones, right? We have a crate for the dog or some type of confinement system. We get all that in place and that's important. So that's good that we're thinking of that. But I think some things to think about are first and foremost safety hazards. So cords, oh my goodness, how many puppies do we know? How many people have we heard from? There's like, they're chewing the cords. And it's very, upsetting because it can hurt your dog. We don't want anybody getting electrocuted or ruining your lamp that you can't put on now. So I think pulling all that to a side, taking it out. Like if you don't need that thing, if you don't need your phone charger plugged in right there on the floor, let's move it up or put it in a bedroom where we can close the door. So just prepping those hazards, cords, steep stairs, or again, kind of thinking of it like a child, like can the puppy fall down to hurt themselves? So we want to make sure those areas are blocked off in some way. You can use a gate and things like that. So, which I'm going to mention some proper management in a moment, which is really important, but just hazards, right? Picking those things up. Don't leave things around. If you have kids as well as a puppy, get ready, folks, because it's a lot of work, right? We love all of them, but it's work, right? So I think just making sure your kids' toys aren't on the floor, Legos, little things that your puppy could consume, swallow, choke. So any of that, clear it up. Have a nice clean space. You almost want to, I say, staging your house, almost like as if pretty plain. There's not a lot of junk around. It looks pretty boring in the nicest way. So doing that's going to be important. I think also items that you don't want chewed. So look around and think like a puppy. Are your shoes out? Are those nice leather boots out that you don't want the puppy getting into? Let's put them in a bin behind a closed door in a closet. So I think a lot of times people aren't thinking too much like a puppy. They're thinking like a pup parent. So I want to implore people to take a couple moments and actually think like a dog for a minute and look around, be like, what would I be interested in? What could I get into? if you want to take it one step further, sometimes you can actually like get down on the ground level and look around, because they'll be like, I didn't know that was underneath the couch. I didn't know that was on the floor over there. So, get down and look around to really inspect things, because the more you get proactive about this stuff, the less you're going to have to be reactive later. And that is the most important part. So safety stuff, items you don't want chewed or ruined. There's going to be some collateral damage nonetheless, no matter how much you try. That's pretty normal, but let's minimize how much of that can happen. And I think too, having their setup ready, where their crate's going to be. Have you thought that through? Where their bed's going to be, their food and water bowls, their toys, things like that. Kind of have all that set up so you're not having to set it up once your puppy's already roaming around and sniffing around and may have to go to the bathroom or whatever. So have that area ready to go to be used when you arrive home. And what I mentioned before, the biggest thing about this is management. I was having a conversation the other night with a client of mine, and we were talking, and I said, we're kind of offline. It was out of our session. And I was talking about how management, I feel like management as a trainer is the most missed thing. And I feel like a lot of problems, especially when you have a puppy, when you're trying to be proactive, can be reduced significantly, or you can have none of those issues ever really occur if we're using proper management, especially in the beginning of having a puppy or a dog in our house. So if you don't want your puppy barging out the door, put them behind a gate. Management, right? If you don't want your dog jumping all over, somebody that's arrived home, put them on a leash, put them behind a gate, put them in their crate for a moment with something to chew on while that person comes in. Management. If you do nothing else, do management. It's gates, it's crates, it's leashes. Have it ready to go, have it nearby, and have some treat stations and toys handy. You need to be prepared. So I always say, if you go in without your tool belt, you're not going to be able to fix much if you're working in that type of capacity. And the treats and all this management stuff are your tools. So you want to have those ready to go.
I love it. Again, just like so many, gets my brain thinking, gets me back thinking about when this dog, for those watching, Sunny, chewed up our brand new table. And I look, and we were frustrated, but like looking back and with more of the knowledge I have now, it's like, I probably should not have given my 4-month puppy access to a wood table that's in our home. Like, and I think, like you said, we want to think as pup parents, and we don't always think like dogs. Like, if it's there, they're going to find it, and they will do likely something you don't want them to do to said object. So I love that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true.
Clear it out. Yeah. If you're not okay with it potentially being chewed on, don't give them access to it. I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Being proactive is always key when it comes to raising a puppy or a dog. Like all this advice goes for just if you just rescued an older dog too. This is all important stuff too, is you don't know that dog's history or what they're going to be like in your house. So regardless, this is good information to keep in mind.
100%. So on that note, we puppy proofed our home. We kind of have some expectations set. When you first bring your dog home, whether it's a dog, a puppy, whatever it might be, what do you kind of do in those first few hours? Because we talked about keeping expectations low. And so I don't know, what should we expect in the first few hours, maybe even the first day? Like what is that going to look like?
I think the first few hours, especially like you said, in the first day are crucial, very important, as I'm sure we all feel that weight of what do we do during these crucial beginning hours together? What does that look like? So again, keeping it simple, right? We want to keep this low key. You're going through a lot as a new pup parent and pet parent coming in and going, oh my gosh, I brought this puppy home and I'm really excited, but I'm very nervous about it. And so you're going through those emotions. Your dog's like, where the heck am I? Why am I here now? Who are these people that are really interested in me? There's a lot of emotions going on, and hopefully very happy and positive emotions, but there is a lot. So I feel like keeping it simple. Bring your puppy in, make sure they go potty. So if you, again, back to traveling, if you've been traveling a little bit, walk them around your property a little bit, bring them in the yard, make sure they're going to the bathroom for a moment, make sure they're clearing that up before you bring them in. So that way you're not stressed about that right away, although you're going to be back out really quickly if it's a young puppy to have them go again. But clear that out before you go in and just show them their area. We've hopefully set it up already. We're going to go show them where their stuff is, let them sniff around and get used to the scents around your home. If you have other animals in your house or other family members in the house, just kind of, again, all the other animals should be kept away right away. I know a lot of people are like, everyone meet right in the beginning. I would not do that. I would avoid that. Low key decompression. That's what you want to think of in the first few hours. Everyone's got to decompress and take it all in. Your puppy needs to take in what's going on. So sit with them in a quiet area of your home. Hopefully a common area where the puppy is going to be spending time would be best. Have some toys available. See if they want to go play with them. Let them play with them. Let them out every 15 to 20 minutes, especially if it's a young puppy. After playtime, of course, after every meal, anytime they've been resting. So if they wake up from a little nappy nap, let's get them outside right away. Short amount of time in the crate would be good. So if you plan on your puppy sleeping in the crate that night, or you're going to be using that fairly soon, spending short positive bursts of exposure in the crate. So giving them something to chew on or some of their meal that you plan on giving them, just positive stuff, right? And then, you're going to probably want to bring them to the vet within the first 48 hours just to get them checked up. So that's something else to keep in mind. I know that might not be the first day, but that's something you might want to call about or have that set up prior, just in preparation to make sure they're healthy and everything is looking good, and you can come back home and enjoy your puppy some more in a healthy way. So just sitting with them, letting them hear your voice, like I said, touching them, letting them play, letting them rest. It's kind of like a spa day, just real relaxed and low key. And that's really how I would keep it. I don't think there's really all that much pressure or things we need to think about other than, again, safe. Does the puppy feel safe? Does the puppy feel calm? Does the puppy feel happy? And that's what you want to try to focus on, and try to feel like that yourself as well. So I think keeping it simple, keeping a low key decompression is the main thing to think about in those first few hours. And one minor note that I wanted to add, maybe major note, I'll change it to major note. Try not to have, and I know with the current state of affairs, we're not having a lot of people over, but if it's people you've quarantined with or members of your family that are all arriving home, don't have a huge gathering. Don't have all of your family come in at once to meet the puppy. I know it's exciting. I totally understand why people want to show their puppy off, but we really want to at least spend a couple of days of just letting your puppy take in where they're at before we do all of that. And then you do want to get socialization, which I know we'll talk about today a little bit, but not in the first day or two. Let's just let them take it all in.
Keep it simple. That's kind of
keep it simple.
And I think that's a good thing, because I think for us as pup parents, like you said, there's so many emotions, there's so many things going on in our mind of things we want to accomplish or start figuring out. But I think it's good, like you said, just keep it simple. And I think that's beneficial for both us as the humans and the dog. And one thing that I wanted to just kind of point out to people, we talked about first hours, first day, let's say, first, sun up to sundown day that your dog is at home. You're a trainer with almost 10 years of experience, and you did not mention doing any training. And I want to emphasize that, because I know we're talking about keeping it simple and just, decompressing and, making sure your dog isn't stressed out. But like, here is a trainer telling parents, don't train your dog the first day. Just let them decompress. So I wanted to reemphasize that.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking that. And the fact you just said that, I was like, yeah, that's of course, right? Yeah, it is a little weird that I didn't mention that for sure. So very, very good observation. Yeah, it's some people might feel like they want to get right into that. And is it the end of the world if we grab a couple treats and try to have the dog, look at us or learn their name? No, of course not. But again, back to those expectations. I don't want to have expectations like my dog's going to learn 3 skills today. It's just, so I think we want to get to that fairly soon after that and start that process. But low key the first couple of days. Yeah, I did leave that out.
I love it. So the next question that I have, and we've kind of touched on this a little bit, it goes back to kind of preparing your home, preparing our expectations. But what kind of ground rules can we set with our dogs? Because I think a lot of people, again, it's kind of overwhelming. There's a lot happening at once. We have the best intentions, but in our mind, it's like, well, I don't really want my dog to go on the couch, but like, it's okay. It's just like the first day, like it'll be fine. Or like, oh, I don't really want my dog going into that room with all the nice things in it. Like, but it's okay. Like, it's just the first day. Like, what should we be doing to like kind of set? And I know ground rules sounds a little harsh, and it's not that way. It's just like, how do we set our dogs up for success by setting ground rules, and what would be some ground rules that you kind of set right away for your dog?
I think that's a really good question. And I do think, especially being a positive trainer, just on that note, it does sometimes, we get some flack sometimes of like, we don't set any rules. It's just really the dog's just having a lovely time. And yes, we want to have the dog to have a lovely time with training and having structure, but there is still boundaries and structure. It's not just wild and crazy like Chuck E. Cheese every moment of the day, but it's about doing it in a kind way and having an approach that makes the dog and the puppy feel comfortable and trusting of us. That's what everybody who has a dog wants. So on that note, I think setting some ground rules is, of course, an imperative part of what we're going to do with this puppy. And a really funny thing that I like to remind people of, especially those that get puppies that are going to be large breed dogs or even moderately large, medium size. And even if your dog's teeny tiny, still important. But I always say, hey, whatever your puppy is doing right now, whether that's jumping up on you or coming up on the couch or sniffing around, in the kitchen or whatever it is, I want you to picture your 90-pound dog in 7 months, what that's going to look like. And do we still like it? So regardless of what's going on, I try to think in the larger scope of things, the big picture. So what I would say to kind of setting some rules, I would say, think about what your day-to-day looks like and think about how you want your puppy to be involved or not involved. So for example, a lot of people love their dogs, but would really not prefer them to be around when we're dining at the dining room table, we're eating a meal with our family, or we're cooking in the kitchen to have said meal in the dining room. And the puppy's running around, and maybe when they're a little older, they're jumping up on the counter, or they're stealing a piece of cheese off of something, or they can reach the coffee table and we left some hors d'oeuvres over there or whatever. And so we want to try to, back to management. This is crucial for everybody to know. I want you to use management to ensure that your puppy does not make mistakes. So what happens is, I think sometimes people, they want their puppy to be involved. They're not fully trained yet on this stuff, or the pet parent doesn't really know how to address those things yet. And what happens is the more access we give when we're not 100% supervising this little young puppy, the more potential for problems. And then we're going to be seeing these behaviors that we don't like. They stole a shoe, they ripped the napkin off, they took the rag off the oven, and they're running around, and now we're chasing them and we're annoyed. And all of that stuff can be prevented if you just put your dog behind a gate or in a crate, or give them something to chew on while you're cooking that is going to preoccupy them for an extended period of time. It's just about being strategic. So I think I would fence off certain areas, gates, baby gates, and things like that if you don't want them to get into. Closing doors, make it a family policy, get your kids involved, give them some positive reinforcement for closing their bedroom doors with all their toys in there or whatever, cleaning up. So start to incentivize other members of your family to close off, gate off, shut off, so that puppy can't get in there. And I do get this one a lot about being on furniture or being in the bed. So a lot of people will ask me, what's your thoughts on dogs going on furniture? What's your point of view on dogs getting into bed? And I usually say this, I'll go, I don't care if you want your dog to sit at the dining room table in a chair and eat off of a gold platter, as long as it's not hurting your training. So if you came to me and said, I don't like that, then obviously we don't want to do that. But at the end of the day, it's your dog, it's your house, it's your ground rules that you're setting. So no trainer, no blog, no neighbor should be telling you what they think about it. If you want your dog to sleep in bed with you and there isn't any behavioral issues, if your dog's growling at your spouse for coming into the bed, then that's a problem, and we need to maybe not have the dog in bed. But it's your rules. So at the end of the day, you just want to prevent as best as possible with a puppy anything you don't want happening, because the more your dog practices that, the more it's a behavior. So if we just cut this off, like with Jade, when she was a puppy, my pit bull, she didn't see shoes unless they were on my feet. She did not see a shoe unless it was on a foot. And so when she was several months older and I started to leave shoes out on the shoe rack or by the front door, it really was a non issue. And that's because she didn't practice chewing on 12 shoes or picking them up and running off and then having a nice catch me if you can game. So it's really important if the puppy doesn't have a taste of that thing, it'll be way easier to not be a problem later. So being proactive and setting your own rules at the end of the day and just sticking to those is what really matters.
And I think that is an important point to remember, again, just to kind of reemphasize of like, it's a lot easier to prevent a problem behavior than it is to fix it. And and
Right.
and like you said, like if your dog just has never had the opportunity to chew up shoes, they're going to be way less likely to do that when the opportunity is presented to them because it's not something they enjoy. And that's, again, it's like when they do get to chew the shoe, it's reinforcing because they're
Exactly.
chew. And so, of course, next time they're presented with that opportunity, why wouldn't they chew the shoe? So I think
Hmm.
it's so important to remember that it's way easier to prevent. And I also love, what you said of it's our house. Like it's your house, it's your dog. You're gonna get advice, man. I'm sure you can relate to this. If you want unsolicited advice from people,
Oh man,
don't
yeah.
walk around with your dog or tell someone you got a dog or tell someone you have a puppy or tell someone you do anything related to dogs and instantly they'll tell you, yeah, you should be doing this and not that and doing
Hmm.
this and doing that. And it's like we have to make decisions for ourselves. I think we have to, educate ourselves. We need to,
Yes.
follow and read things that are science backed and that are,
Hmm.
using correct methods. But then from there, like you said,
Right.
we can make our own decisions. Like my dogs sleep in the bed, but that might not be a good option for someone else.
Exactly.
So I think we just have to know beforehand. It comes back to prepping our home. It comes back to setting those expectations is like we need to even think about it before it ever happens. Like answering
Hmm.
those questions of is my dog going to go on the furniture? Is my dog going to be able to do X, Y, or Z different things? So I love that. Super, super important. Kind of a wrap up question. I kind of kept this one a little bit vague because I know that you'll have a great answer for it. So we've kind of talked about a lot of don'ts in the sense of like, don't allow your dog to go here, don't allow your dog to have free roam, don't have too high of expectations, but like let's talk about some do's potentially, right? We've covered some, but
Yeah.
what do you recommend? And again, this is kind of an open-ended question. I did it on purpose. How can someone best set up their new dog for success in their home? What can they do?
I think that's an excellent question. And I appreciate the open endedness of it because there's so much to it. And I think learning starts early. So this is where I am going to bring in the training, folks. I'm going to start talking about it right now. So learning does start early. So once we've gotten settled in, our puppy's in home, and we're ready to start training with them, what does that look like? And the most important thing for puppies, especially again, if you're getting a puppy at a young age, 8 weeks old, stuff like that, the socialization period, the prime socialization period is the most important part of having a puppy in my opinion. So like the crucial part to work with them and ensure that your dog does not have potential behavioral issues down the line as an adult. And it's the most crucial thing. And I would say in my experience over the years of doing this, that most people are completely unaware about a puppy socialization period altogether. And it's the most important part, the most crucial part. So the socialization prime period of that is, it ranges and there's different numbers out there, but generally speaking, it closes at about 14 to 16 weeks of age, which is pretty young. That goes by quickly. And so during this time, you want to expose your dog to all sorts of stuff. And they have lists online and things you can look up. But especially now, so I do want to touch on the times, right? People have had difficulties this year figuring out and into the new year, figuring out how to socialize puppies because we're not going out that much. We're not seeing all of our friends and family right now. And so how do we do that? So there's tons to think about there, but just to kind of generally discuss that, you want to have positive experiences with those that you can see, even social distancing. If you have a longer leash and you want to let your puppy go up and meet your neighbor or a friend that's walking or something, you can do that. But you want to have, basically it boils down to exposure to people, other dogs, other things that are in your life. So if you if you play a sport, bring those things out. If you play hockey, bring your stick out and your equipment. If you play in a band, let them hear you play the trumpet a little bit, or, you expose them to things that matter in your specific life. So back to catering it to your household, everybody's socialization priorities are going to be slightly different. Although I do put people at the top of the list and other dogs, if you plan on seeing other dogs in your life, which most people do if we love dogs and we have a dog. So those two are important. Small children, if they're in your family or you intend on having children in the future and that puppy's going to be around as a full grown adult, getting them exposed to people, places, things. And so basically how you're going to do that is just make sure that they're positive. So if you make sure that when your puppy meets people that they don't feel overwhelmed, that they don't feel stressed, they're consenting into being touched and pet by strangers, you can even reward them. I do that all the time when I was training puppies in person and going up to people. I would kind of pop a treat in their mouth when they would come up and initially look at them or be around them, just to really put another coin in the jar of that positive interaction. You don't always have to do that, but I definitely recommend it if you have it on you. Pairing it with positive stuff, food, play, toys, just access to things that they would like, making sure that those experiences are positive, and do them as much as possible before 16 weeks of age. So positive exposure. In terms of at-home training, so that socialization is first. That comes, you can train a 13-year-old dog to lie down or go on their bed. That's important, but I really don't care about that in the beginning. Socialization is the top thing. But some other things during that time is nipping. We talked about that. See our other podcast episode if you want to learn more about the nipping stuff. But jumping, potty training, crate training, meeting people, whether that's your daughter or son coming in the door from work or from going to the grocery store, making sure your puppy's not jumping up on them, and vet visits. So I know a lot of places right now you can't quite go in with your puppy. It's a little bit of an odd time to be doing some of this, but if you do have, or when things do and you can go in, just trying to expose your puppy to the lobby, meeting the staff, reward them, get lots of love, and then leave. You don't even need a vet appointment. Just go get them used to going over there, because you're going to be there a lot, especially in the first few months. So positive exposure, learn more about dog body language. Understanding dog body language could be literally the biggest change between knowing if it's a positive interaction or a negative interaction. I think a lot of pup parents don't know that they should be learning a lot about dog body language. So if you can, I would try to learn as much as possible about how dogs express themselves so that we can understand how they're feeling, make sure that it's positive.
I love it. So I want to ask like kind of one follow-up question on the social
Mm-hmm.
side of things, because I think, like you said, a lot of people don't understand the importance of it. And like, I was definitely the same way when we first got our puppies. Like, I'd heard the words and I'd seen some lists online and I thought, yeah, I'll get around to that. But like, what
Mm-hmm.
happened to our dogs if we don't give them proper socialization? What is a result of lack of socialization?
Yeah, that is a very, very great question. So I think that, give or take, so I work a lot in behavior. And so I deal with a lot of dogs that have behavioral issues, anxiety, aggression, reactivity stuff, fear of things, and sometimes a mixture of all of it. And they're dealing with a lot of emotions. And so I think a lot of times when a dog has that problem, yes, is it sometimes like a traumatic learning event that happened? Sure, that's possible. Is it that they have a genetic predisposition or a genetic component to that? Absolutely possible. But one of the most common ones when I sit down with a client or talk to somebody about this and we dig deep into, hey, when you first got your puppy, what were those first 3 months like? Tell me about that. And I really ask a lot of questions to be put in that time frame with them and learn as much as possible. And we kind of figure out that, their dog now have severe stranger danger. Like, they don't like new people. They get very nervous and they might either retreat and do the flight option. And some dogs, they do the fight option where they're growling and lunging and charging at the door when someone tries to come in. And that's scary. And they're both kind of the same emotion. They're both like, oh my gosh, I'm scared of new people, but they can manifest differently and they're both concerning. So taking that example, most of the time we get down, it's like, oh, we didn't really They were just with us. And the first time they kind of had a stranger come in, they were like a year old, or they were like 9 months old, or, so sometimes a lack of socialization can lead to behavioral issues. It's probably one of the most common reasons why dogs have behavioral issues. So it's either a lack of it, like they didn't get exposed to it, so now it's this foreign thing they're nervous about or fearful of, or the socialization was done, but it wasn't done well. So they met a lot of people, but it was kind of, maybe the puppy was a little not into it. And they were like, get on in there and say hello, and kind of want their family member to greet the dog. And that was unfortunately registered as negative. So sometimes we can do socialization improperly and it can lead to problems because we're forcing the dog into perhaps situations they want to opt out of, and we're not reading that body language. And, or it's just a complete lack of it. And as we can appreciate with humans, if we see something we don't know that does not look familiar, it can make us uncomfortable. And we can be like a little apprehensive about it. So some people might go in and be like, this is amazing, brand new stuff. But most people are going to be a little bit put off or have pause at least to figure out what that foreign thing is. So I think it's the most important thing because of the fact that it is going to help your dog not have those issues, but a lack of or done improperly can lead to some problems. But I will say, do the best you can, because this can make somebody feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to ruin my dog. I'm not going to do it properly, or I'm not going to do it enough. Do the best you can. And again, just making sure it's positive. Keep them short if you're not sure, the interactions positive, and just keep it short in the beginning is going to be key. And I think just do your best. We can't hit every socialization pillar. Nobody is that strategic in the first 3 months to have all the time in the world to go everywhere. But those key things that matter in your life, focus on those, worry about the rest later.
I love that. And it just got me thinking on something. I want to share like a really quick story. So my
Yeah.
2 Labradors, we have Scout and Sunny. So we got Scout when Sunny was about 6, 7 months old. So out of that like socialization period, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
we took both of them to a in-person, this was a few years ago, an in-person puppy class. And unfortunately, back then, I didn't know a lot of what I know now. And there were some methods that were used that now I
Mm-hmm.
definitely disagree with. At the time, I just wasn't really aware. I didn't know what was happening. And
Right.
because of that, Scout is still to this day, we struggle a little bit with reactivity, especially to other dogs, because,
Mm-hmm.
looking back at that situation we were in, she was in that prime time of socialization. We were putting her into a
Mm-hmm.
situation where there was too much stress, and that was related to dogs and other humans. And so I kind of want to just make that point to people that, like, sometimes as pup parents, again, you're getting information from competing sources, all kinds of people trying to tell you, no, this is right, this is okay. Sometimes we just have to remember too to trust our gut of like, if
Yes.
something seems a little weird or your dog seemed like, I think the biggest thing that I have learned like from this episode and just from like my experience raising my 3 dogs, but like the 2 labs, is like, if your dog is getting stressed out, you probably just want to leave the situation in most cases. Like,
Right.
and I think that ties into socialization. Like you said, sometimes we're not really sure. Sometimes we're like, is this an okay experience? My gut
Mm-hmm.
feeling is like, if you're on the fence about it, it doesn't hurt to just like leave the situation completely and get a clear mind and reassess and say, what was happening there? What do I need to do differently?
That's a great story. I'm really glad that you shared that, because methods are so important. And I also think you just kind of reminded me of something I think is important with that. Like, when our dog acts up or barks at another dog or gets excited in a puppy class or whatever it might be, sometimes if we're in the public space in that moment, the pet parent can feel like, oh my gosh, I got to quiet my dog down. It's embarrassing, right? We feel like we're on stage. And I totally have felt like that before, especially even as a trainer. I'm like, my dog's got to look great out here, and at the end of the day, we're all pet parents doing our best. And your dog is also doing the best that they can with the information and the situation at hand. So don't feel pressure to, like, there's plenty of times where Fred like lets off. He came to me very reactive. and it's a work in progress. There's not a cure for things like this. We all know somebody who has anxiety or other things like that, emotional things. It's not something you're just like, I never have anxiety again. Your dog's still going to have little things. They're allowed to feel certain ways, but he's way better now. But there's 1% here and there. If I miss something, he kind of lets off a little huff before it would be a huge thing. So it's a huge improvement, but he's still like, hey, and I don't blame him. I actually apologize to him that I missed it, and I'm like, oh, sorry, bud. I looked down and I apologize, so don't put so much expectation on the dog. And also, making sure that the methods you're using are positive and in a way that's trying to come at it from empathy and compassion so that your dog can try to guide out of that and feel a little bit better. We don't want to add negativity into an already potentially stressful situation just to get the dog to stop. We want to make sure that they're feeling happy about it and healthy with it. So that's a really, really good story. I'm glad you shared it, because some of that early experience can shape the dog. And there is a thing called a single learning event, which I mentioned briefly earlier. One event, as we know with people as well, I like to tie it back in. You have a traumatic experience or you have a really negative experience somewhere. Try to have a really bad experience at a restaurant. I don't think you're going to be going back.
Right.
And so, we really want to make sure that we're keeping things as happy and positive and low stress as possible. And if you don't feel good about it, if your gut's telling you something, it's best to opt out and reassess, like you said. So I think that's really important.
I love this topic. I think I've learned a lot already. I'm sure listeners have as well. And
Awesome.
what one point I say this almost every episode, and you've hit on this as well, Erika, is just like, if you're a pup parent and you're feeling overwhelmed right now, like, remember, like Erika was just saying, you don't have to be perfect. Like, do what you can, but just recognize that, like, you're going to have challenges. I think that's part of being a pup parent, is being agile,
Yeah.
being able to just kind of pivot and say, all right, that did not work at all. That was a disaster. What am I going to do next time to make sure that doesn't happen again? And I think that's kind of the overarching theme of, like, preparing to bringing your dog home is, like, knowing that bad things might happen, challenges might pop up, but doing as much as you can to, like, be proactive, be forward thinking, and think, okay, how can I help my dog be successful? So I love it. I've learned a lot. And
That's
again,
awesome.
to that point, Erika, thank you so much for coming on. I think that you are a great teacher and you have a great way of explaining things to people. And I always come away just like, okay, there's different things I'm going to do with my dogs even. And that's the thing too, like you were saying, your dog, extremely reactive in the past. It's a work in progress, but that's another good reminder of your dog is never done being trained. Like,
It's a lifestyle. It's a relationship.
100%.
It's not a fixed point in time.
There's always things that we can be working on. There's always things that we can do to help our dogs, improve their behavior and be, better citizens in the world of humans. So thank you again, Erika, for coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. I always love these discussions. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And for those listening / watching, we will link to all of Erika's things in the show notes, in the episode notes. She's on Instagram, TikTok, website, all that stuff. We will make sure that is all there so you can go and follow her and get even more awesome content from her. And I always say, if you're listening or watching, please, let us know what you're liking, what topics you want to hear more about, what you're struggling with, and we can cover them on upcoming episodes. But other than that, we will catch you guys on the next episode.